You know what this represents?
Tell us, sir.
Maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What's the storm?
Could be the calm before the storm.
What storm is
We have the world's great military people in this room, I will tell you that. And we're going to have a great evening. Thank you all for coming.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
In 2001, a real-world exercise tested the emergency response to a bioterror attack on the continental United States. The operation was called Dark Winter. Within just a few days, the simulation spiraled out of control. The operation predicted a rapid breakdown in essential institutions, civil disorder, and massive civilian casualties. Dark Winter has revealed how vulnerable we've become. Our lifestyle, our security, our safety depends on a delicate and unstable economy. We've created a system so complicated that we no longer understand how to control it. Oil, power, shipping, transport. We live in a complex world. And the more complex it gets, the more fragile it becomes. The system is built on a global supply chain that gets things where they're needed, just in time. We've created a house of cards. Remove just one, and everything falls apart. And what's fueling this system?
Money. Americans can spend $90 billion in a single day of shopping. Last year, 200 million people swarmed their local stores on November 23rd. We call that day Black Friday. Did you know that a flu virus can survive on the surface of a banknote for up to 17 days? One day there will be a pandemic. It could begin during the crush of Black Friday sales. A pathogen will jump from tainted banknotes to human skin, onto food, toys, children, and loved ones. By the time patient zero feels the first sore throat, millions of people will already be infected. From this point, the breakdown will happen fast.
Day 1, hospitals will reach capacity. Panic will strike. Day 2, quarantine zones will be established. Resources will be rationed. Transport will go into lockdown. Day 3, international trade will stop. The oil will dry up. The stock market will collapse. Day 4, the power will fail. The shelves will be empty. The taps will run dry. And once hunger and despair take hold, people will do anything for survival. By day 5, everyone will be a potential threat.
In 2007, a new presidential directive was signed quietly into law. This maps out the government's response to a crisis, a plan to cope with a real dark winter. It is known as Directive 51. There are rumors of shadow agencies, sleeper cells, covert agents, but nothing can be confirmed.
Our complex world is primed for breakdown.
And once the chaos strikes,
there won't be resources to save us all.
The only question left is, what will it take to save what remains?
It's hard to watch something you love destroy itself, to see it fall apart. Disaster always feels so distant, detached. Someone else's struggle in some faraway place. It's not until it's in our city, at our doors, that we realize how fragile we are. All of us. All of this.
No, baby, Steven, Mommy, I'm here. Mommy's right here. Angie, no. Please. I love you, Marcus. Sarah.
And when it hit, when it came down hard.
Give me my family back.
And we fell. We buried ourselves in anger, fear, in the instinct to survive.
I'm
sorry, Sarah. I'm just not strong enough.
Where's the drive, Simon?
Please no more.
And the real truth is, no one watched, no one saw, wanted to see.
Where you going?
Tragedy is invisible. People turn away from it and run from it if they can. And it's hard knowing that you belong here, that your purpose lies amongst all this pain. But someone's gotta be there to pick it up, to push back, put the first piece back together, put us all back together.
On June 22, 2001, the United States government began Operation Dark Winter. Operation Dark Winter was not a war game. Instead, something more unusual. Dark Winter was a germ game. In 2001, the US military, government, and media launched a mock battle against pathology. The premise was simple. The bioterror organization released a deadly virus into the country, and smallpox is spreading quickly. The US government must now react to contain the outbreak and stop further harm. How did we do? The results were disastrous. Within 48 hours, the government failed its objectives. The loss of human life was high, and when Operation Dark Winter ended 3 days later, a summary of recommendations were given to implement across different levels of government to better prepare in case of a future Dark Winter. But a Dark Winter never came. Instead, 4 months later, 9/11 struck the United States with a different type of fear, and the government and our focus shifted away from home to land conflicts in Iraq and Islamic terrorism abroad. But Dark Winter wasn't the last germ game.
With a growing concern over the notion that chemical and biological weapons were unaccounted for and could potentially fall into the hands of terrorists, the Department of Defense wanted to test the nation's readiness for such an emergency. In June 2001, the DoD conducted a war game called Operation Dark Winter.
Dark Winter was a major exercise that was done prior to 9/11, earlier in 2001, to look at the effects of a biological terror event. And it was kind of a scary scenario. We would lose a lot of people if a really effective bioterror event occurred.
The simulation evaluated the government's ability to respond and communicate with the public, and the exercise even included mock news reports.
Since the diagnosis of 20 smallpox cases in Oklahoma City 12 days ago, hundreds have now died, thousands have become infected.
We had to, think about things like, quarantines and martial law, and things like that. All of a sudden, our system wasn't our system anymore because we had this terrible thing going on and we had to change. We had to change the way we thought about things. We had to change the way the military interrelated with the civilian world, and it was really an eye-opener.
And the conclusion were tens of millions of deaths, no commerce between states, no airplane flying for 6 months, and war between Oklahoma and Texas.
Good evening. We interrupt our regular programming to return to Southwest Medical Center and continuing coverage of the outbreak of a mystery sickness. Earlier today, hospital officials said they were admitting patients with symptoms that seemed to be severe adult chickenpox. But now we have new information. We go to Andy Field outside Southwest Medical Center. Good evening, Andy. What can you tell us?
Sheila, we've been moved to an isolated area behind the hospital, and off-the-record doctors here suspect that at least 5 patients hospitalized at Southwest may have smallpox. Now, for those of us who don't remember the disease, it is a deadly virus. We haven't seen it in this country in at least 20 years. Now, if this proves to be true, we could have a very serious health emergency on our hands. But officially, the hospital will not confirm or deny that diagnosis.
Following Black Friday, retail's busiest day of the year, a number of people began getting sick, and it was spreading incredibly quickly. Initially, the symptoms were mistaken for a severe case of the flu. However, when people started dying from it, medical personnel quickly began investigating and eventually discovered that it seemed to be an outbreak of the previously eradicated smallpox virus. To combat the outbreak, the smallpox vaccine was distributed to the public, but unfortunately, the vaccine was quickly proven ineffective, and devastatingly, things were about to get a whole lot worse. The city's infrastructure was starting to break down, hospitals were becoming overloaded, and the New York police force was struggling to maintain the peace. A number of gangs of rioters were starting to carve out their own territories within the city. Eventually, the government assembled a new line of defense, hoping to help maintain order. This group was composed of the police, firefighters, civil volunteers, and the National Guard, and they were known as the Joint Task Force. Their job, to stop the spread of the virus and uphold order within the city. The plan was simple. All known infected individuals would be relocated to the center of the city, separate from the uninfected. And in order to stop these people from leaving and mixing with the public, a large wall would be built around the quarantine area. This way, the spread would be contained, and they would be in a better position to get the appropriate personnel and bring them in directly to where the help was needed. But eventually, the situation got worse, and more than what the JTF could handle. One of the private military contractors brought in to help keep the peace, known as the Last Man Battalion, cut ties with the JTF and started taking control of parts of the city for themselves. And on top of this, there were a number of other hostile factions starting to rise, like the Cleaners and the escaped convicts, known as the Rikers.
On day 6 of the smallpox epidemic, the White House confirmed that federal government officials and military personnel are being vaccinated. 300 people have died. At least 2,000 are infected with smallpox. Smallpox symptoms are being seen in 15 states, also in Canada, Mexico, and England. The U.S. smallpox vaccine supply continues to shrink as officials try to stretch limited stocks to cover the entire nation. An official announcement regarding the remaining vaccine inventory is expected later today. Struggles to get vaccinated led to violence in some cities. Profound economic losses are crippling the nation. In Oklahoma alone, economic experts project severe losses in the state's multi-billion-dollar agricultural commodities market. Still, no group claims responsibility for unleashing the deadly smallpox virus. But NCN has learned that Iraq may have provided the technology behind the attack to terrorist groups based in Afghanistan. We have a breaking story from Oklahoma. We go straight to Andy Fields of Oklahoma City's KMSA. Andy, are you there?
Angie, Texas Governor Rick Parsons has now suspended all surface and air contact between Texas and Oklahoma. He has ordered his state troopers and the National Guard to seal the borders. Now, we're about a mile away from the Texas border here, just near Interstate 35 and the Red River Bridge that connects the two states. The troopers here have taken the media to what they call a so-called safe spot. But as we've told you earlier today, Oklahomans by the carload had been seen leaving the state in every direction trying to escape this deadly smallpox outbreak. Now, we have reports of vigilantes at the Texas border trying to stop people from coming over. I don't know if you just heard that. There was a shot fired. We've heard there's another one. Now, we're not sure where these shots are coming from. We're a little too far away from the border to hear this here, but there have been shots. This is the second time in the hour we've heard this. The National Guard and the Oklahoma State Troopers are here with us. We're not certain who's doing the firing or if what we're hearing is return firing. There's another shot. It's starting to sound like a war zone. I'm Andy Field reporting.
The ash piles, a familiar sight today. Black snowflakes in the wind. The yesterdays our calloused fingers can't reclaim. Each heavy breath we take is proof of daunting war zone paths we didn't want, but to survive all had to choose. Hold on, hold on, hold on. The ice will melt. The sun will come. Sickness breed shadows that lurk in hearts. Tailbane tear and bleed. Dark winter perseveres. Voices screaming together as one. We won't take bended knee. Dark winter. Contagion burdens our humanity. Where children used to play, now violence flares, their futures crushed and quarantined. Scattered, we all know what it takes to weather through the cold. 'Cause if we fall, we forfeit too much that's at stake. Hold on, hold on, hold on. The ice will melt. The sun will come. Sickness breed shadows that lurk in hearts. Tailbane tear and bleed. Dark winter perseveres. Voices screaming together as one. We won't take bended knee. Dark winter perseveres. And so lives are lost, hearts displaced, and no one knows how to heal. We can save, far off from home, frozen still. But one day we will outgrow brave.